Hello,
Hello.
everybody. How are you? How you
I
doing,
hope
Sharon?
everybody's fine. Yeah, it's a great day in December.
Great. I am Heidi Esther, joy and mindfulness storyteller, delightfully here with the Queen of Courage, Miss Sharon Rolph. And we are going to have a courageous and curious and fun conversation today about her new book and all the things, wonderful things about Sharon. So, before Sharon and I get started, just a couple housekeeping. Um, if you like any of the things that we're saying, feel free to comment. And if you're watching the replay, just let us know. We're going to talk about how you're taking care of yourself today, what you're grateful for. Please chime in if you're watching the replay or if you're joining us live on Facebook or YouTube. We are here for this conversation and to get you to your joyfully ever after. So we're going to be focusing on the main steps or the steps that I discovered to get to my joyfully ever after. So that's kind of waking up into self-awareness. Oh, those are my dogs, in case you can't hear it. And I got so many treats for them. Elvis is the super barker. I got a treat. Here you go, bud. Yeah, I got so many tricks on my sleeve. It's not even funny today. I got like 7 things for my dogs. And they already had a walk. And they already had a bath. And they already had playtime with their tours. And they already had lunch. So I feel like I had toddlers today. Except for they're 4-legged toddlers. So anyway, so to get you to joy, the waking up, finding support, letting in the good stuff, and letting go of the things that no longer serve you. So all right. Well, let's get started. I'm going to talk a little bit about Sharon, our Queen of Courage. Sharon Rolph inspires, collaborates, and motivates others with ideas, possibilities, and potential through essence and retirement coaching. I love that word essence. It's so juicy. It just has so much flavor to it. She loves bringing out the best in people as a behavioral scientist and knowledge manager. See, that's also a very good combo. So if you can dream it, it is possible. She communicates over her YouTube channel and short thought-provoking videos on wisdom using her fabric art blocks, which we have some today, podcasts, and her social media channels. Sharon transitioned her years of facilitating empowerment once she retired from Boeing in 2016 into empowering boomers to find their new purpose with her new book, Fresh Courage in Retirement, which is right there, Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment. And honestly, I read the book. It's good for any age. Her free offer today, obviously, you could totally get the book and you need to totally get the book. But she also has 3 tips to create a new life after retirement. And this could be for any transition in your life, not just retiring. It could be retiring from one life and moving into another. Can be found at effortlessvitality.now.site. And we will definitely put that link and all the other good links to get in touch with Sharon in the show notes. And she has 53 podcasts to her name. That is very impressive. And you can find that under Fresh Courage and Maximize Retirement. That's the title of it. And I assume that's available on all channels, or is it specific to?
Maximize Retirement is only, I believe, only available on Spreaker, and the Fresh Courage in Retirement is on lots of channels. Yeah.
All right. So welcome to the show, Sharon. Yay!
Thank you.
All right. So this is how I always like to get started. So Sharon, how are you taking care of yourself today?
Well, I went and got my hair cut.
Fabulous.
It was getting long, so that's self-care. Before I get out of bed, I always pray for like 20 people, and I don't exactly go through what I'm grateful for before I get out of bed, but I do ask, what do I need to know today? And somebody
Oh, I love
recently, a
that.
couple months ago, said they like to say, God, how do you want to dance with me today?
Oh, I love that. I love that. I recently had a conversation. We talked about dancing with the universe. So,
Yeah. So I'm just grateful. I mean, simple things like air to breathe would be a good place to start.
yep, there's a sign in my bathroom says there's always something to be grateful for. And I tell my children if they got nothing else, they got indoor plumbing. So,
I grew up without that.
so that's, I think it's pretty important. I actually put that on my gratitude challenge for November. I was like, I'm sure we all could think of one thing we're grateful for with regards to indoor plumbing. So, yeah. All right. I am this morning I got back to I'm reading the book called Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and he talks about 7 things to do when I think of 7 things to do, 6 or 7 things to do every morning. And my last 2 mornings have been pretty disruptive. So I kind of got back into the swing of things today. And I did meditation and silence in bed. And that just really kind of sets me up for a calm heart every day and clears my head. And I kind of download information like, what do I, how am I going to meet today? And so it's very grateful for that as well. And that's also how I took care of myself today. So, yay. All right. Okay, Sharon, here we go. So why are what brought you to doing this work? What was it?
As a teenager, I was always intrigued with potential. At the time, it was my potential, the mystery of what's inside, what am I here
Oh,
for? Kind of, yeah. So now that now that us boomers are pretty much mostly retired or soon to be, there's potential in boomers having free time that needs to be used. And it hurts my heart when I hear of people dying within a year of retiring because they couldn't handle doing nothing. Well, 30% of people in retirement struggle with finding purpose. And I'm here to
oh
solve.
wow, that's a pretty high percentage.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm here to fix that.
All right. All right.
And how? It starts with my book. And because this is baby steps. If you do the actions to take, it walks you through the baby steps of helping you do it yourself, finding your purpose. But some people want help to walk alongside that journey. And so I'm here to support you and coach you through that. But then the thing I really want, and that made a difference for me, is writing my essence statement. Who am I on the inside that only Sharon knows? And
Ooh, so
and
tell
then
me, tell us about your like the essence statement. Like, how do we generate this? What is the purpose of it? And what does it kind of entail?
well, my first weekend in coaching school was writing our essence statement. And we had prep work that we had to do before we got to the opening day of school. So we had already reflected on what strengths support me and what are my good habits and bad habits, some of my goals. It's all to kind of dig up some self-awareness and reflection. I've always valued things that gave me a profile of me, because that's like doing a research paper on me.
Mm-hmm. Is
And
that what got you into being a behavioral scientist?
well, it could be because that's part of that potential that is needing to be used and expressed. And one of my profiles said I was an influencer. I am. That's just
Totally. Boomers can be influencers.
Yeah, I'm trying to step forward and say, yes, we need influencers, and I'm willing to do that. Yeah.
For people who don't know, what is a behavioral scientist, and what are the tools that you use from that to move yourself forward into being a coach, a life coach?
Well, if you look on the career page, what was it, Monster or Indeed, you'll find people in behavioral science are typically addict recovery kind of people. I don't want to work with addicts. I wanted to work with good, well people and people that were learning, and I want to help them know their nugget of gold that's inside of them. So yes, that can help addicts.
So people, some behavioral scientists, they take people who are struggling and they bring them up to like feeling good. But you want to take them to like this feeling okay to feeling empowered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
See, I had another way to say it, but it flew by me. So, that in school, because they said, well, back then in 1985, you wouldn't find any job postings for behavioral scientists, but they said it's often correlates with human relation skills. Well, that's a whole lot of life, communication skills and all that. So they encouraged us to look towards human relations. So people were often, it sounds like you should be in HR. Well, yeah, I could, but not HR doesn't do a whole lot of what I'd like to do, but I could partner with them.
Yeah. It sounds like a very good parallel course, and you guys are very complementary. So can you tell me about a time, and I'm just really curious. Okay. So you were talking about, you were so enamored about potential when you were a teen, like just kind of getting into like what I am, and like, what that shininess is inside. How did that manifest as a teenager? Like, what was there something that you started to do? Like, were you a babysitter at that point? Like,
I stacked hay.
You stacked hay. Okay.
Milked cows, gathered eggs. I was in 4-H, and I like to bake. So my entries in the fair, were cookies. But I guess the shining light might have been that I always liked to learn. And I was the only one in my family that wanted to go to college. I did work 1 year after high school at our community bank, and then saved that money to go to school. So, and all my college was basically I did 1 year full time, but even that I was working 30 hours a week, even while I was going to school. But baby steps count. Let me tell you, put one foot in front of the other.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right. So speaking of baby steps, can you share with our viewers a lemons into lemonade moment? So maybe something that you realized, like a negative mindset that you had to let go of, or something that you had to embrace, like you had to embrace being brave, or you had to embrace being patient with yourself. So maybe something you had to either find support for, let in, or let go.
Well, I was the middle of 5, and middle children tend to get ignored. And I, being a lifelong learner and wanting to go to college, that made me unique in itself. But then all through my career, I just, do the normal thing. I figured my bosses would move me ahead when they thought I was ready to. It'd be 2, 3, 4 years and they'll move me ahead. Well, not exactly so. They may not recognize that. But the big lemon that comes to mind, Heidi, is when after I retired and after I learned my essence statement, I also did a webinar online from the UK by Andy Shaw that said it was about how to have mental strength. Okay, that's a new topic. I'll check it out. Yeah. So I checked it out, and he said when you need a stronger backbone or more confidence, bring to mind a warm memory. Okay, well, my warm memory usually was around 3rd grade when I was in the Christmas program. And I was one of the readers, and the rest of the kids were up on stage acting out, and what was endearing to me is that 2 or 3 people afterwards said I was their favorite reader. Nobody had told me how to be a good reader. I had, though, looked around and I thought, well, there's people on TV in front of people. there's
Mm-hmm.
preachers in front of audience, and teachers, they're in front. So I picked up that they needed to speak loud enough so people can hear them, speak slow enough so people could understand them, and look at their audience once in a while. And that merited me a compliment for being their coach. So, but a couple weeks
Yay.
later, Heidi, I said, why just have one more memory to recall? So I made a list, about a 10, item list, and the shock came when I realized that half of those things were in front of people. Had I picked the wrong career? What? So that was when I started acting as if maybe I was meant to be an influencer.
That's fantastic. And for everyone watching, you might want to also do a little warm fuzzy list, because then, the things that you love may not become transparent if you just think of one of them. But if you think of many, you can start to see a pattern. And that's when the magic happens. Or if you're still struggling, you can always ask your friends, like, when do you see me really being myself? When do you, and so you can also start that way if you're not feeling it. Yeah, for sure. All right. So I think it's time to move to your book. All right. Fresh Courage in Retirement. Can you tell us a little bit about why you wrote the book?
Well, the coaching class it's actually kind of build your business. One of the lady coaches left, and I just sent her a quick little, sorry to see you go. I'll miss you, even though I hadn't worked with her. And she said, well, Sharon, is there a book in you? And I thought, well, since I had been making baby steps towards being an influencer, I said, there could be. And she gave me like 7 major questions about why to write the book and who I was talking to, and what would I want to get out of it, the what's in it for me kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I started there, but the title Fresh Courage comes from a Hallmark movie. I'm a big fan of Hallmark movies, and
that's adorable.
There was a line in a dude ranch kind of setting that said, when you go home from vacation, you often go home with fresh courage. Yeah, I think I do. A little stronger backbone, a little more, I can, take on the world again this next year. I think sometimes when we're watching the fire in the fire pit, campground, when we're watching the waves come in on the ocean, or when we're taking a hike, there's times that there's a little voice that talks to us when we're just being silent. And that could be a dream. It could be a new direction. It may be, yeah, Sharon, you could do that. You need to pursue that. So just the novelty, I love unique stuff. So Fresh Courage sounded like a unique perspective. And after this last couple of years, we need a lot more courage.
We could all use a little more.
It is a time to come, a subject time to come. So, and we don't often think of needing a new purpose in retirement, but when 30% of the people struggle with finding purpose in retirement, there is somebody that needs to show them how. And there's books on retirement that are all about the money and making, logical decisions. But I want to tell you, there's lots of decisions that need to be made from the heart. We've been a human doing in our career. Now it's time to be being from our heart. And that takes courage. And so, playing golf 24/7 doesn't exactly hold a lot of meaning for you. Fun, being outdoors is really positive. But what do you get at the end of the day when you go to sleep? Is there making a
Mhm.
difference? Is there meaning? Is there any legacy to that?
Yeah,
So
I think that's I just think that's so powerful to be able to sit and we are also in the middle of the great resignation. So many people are retiring from their life as they knew it and moving on, and I think everybody could use a little bit of fresh courage.
yeah, I think a lot of people are fed up with, that hour-long commute to work. Why do
Mhm.
that anymore? We haven't had to, working from home. The stress, managers that are, not supportive. I found a new company that I'm appalled at. Why didn't we learn this earlier? But the company's called People Acuity, and I said, well, what are you doing for? I called him one day. What are you doing for soon to retire retirees? Well, he said our market we found is in the new hires, and they teach the new hires to come in with their strengths and don't worry about what's missing, in between. That's what the other teammates will do. And they work interdependently. So you don't have to focus on strengthening anything other than what you already have.
It's just supporting. Look at that. They're literally, I mean, like your metaphor is beautiful because they're actually holding their hands
Yeah.
metaphorically and yeah.
And I would think I my theory is that you're going to be happier when you're living from your talents that were came with your DNA, and affirming them and maybe increasing them. I've had quite a affinity to color, and so I'm always looking at how to use color um, for adding to my words of wisdom. So
Yeah, that's a Sharon original right there. This is
yeah, this
Sharon has fabric art in her book also, so you get to see all these different little snippets. And
yeah,
as you can see, she lives a very colorful life because of the beautiful plant behind her.
yeah. So it's processes differently in our mind, spirit, logic. Logic isn't exactly there. Maybe that's a good thing because it hits our heart in
Mhm.
a intuitive kind of way, instead of just, words of wisdom are powerful, but when it's combined with beauty, it's dynamic.
Oh, I love that. All right, I want to dig into the book a little bit more, and I love that you talk in the book about solo aging. So growing up and having retired without having kids, and I actually know quite a lot of people, all all different ages, who have chosen not to have kids. Maybe just a couple dogs or some cats. So you can you share a little bit about what you recommend for like a support network in retirement for the solo agers?
Well, the I have never married and never had kids, and I'm 74, and I brag about it. I am looking for love, however. But retirement is very different for people without kids. There's nobody pulling on you. Come see my game, Grandma. Or come see me graduate, or come babysit for your grandkids. There's none of that. And so for me, my choices are a lot different. And so, in fact, one of my little blocks here that, yeah, this is very, very important in seniors who socialize are happier.
Ah,
As
yes.
as solo agers, we have to focus on and make decisions, conscious decisions. How am I going to be social today, this week? I'm an
Mhm.
introvert, so I don't need a lot of socializing. But if you're an extrovert, oh, you probably shriveled up a lot during this last couple of years.
Yeah, how are
But
you gonna connect, right? How making that a real priority versus it just kind of coming to you automatically and say, oh, well, people are gonna be calling me and I got this and that in my schedule. No. So making a conscious effort. I love that.
and why? Because if you don't take care of yourself, you start declining. And
Mm.
in fact, I when I called the senior center here and asked them what was their mission or vision, they said, well, we're combating isolation and depression. And I thought, yeah, then comes
Wow.
declining health. So I actually came home from a long weekend, and I immediately went out to my patio here and watered my plants. And I got a couple of plants. It's just hard to keep them alive. And,
I hear you. My indoor thumb is not as green as I would like.
I thought, oh yeah, if they're not growing, they're dying. That goes for the rest of us too. So it has to be a conscious decision. So, bridge clubs, golfing clubs, book clubs, sewing clubs. There's things to volunteer for. One of my podcasts that was repeated a lot, especially on a weekend in New York's area, was my guest had been a AARP of Washington State president, and he had 9 points of the good things you get from volunteering. Learning new things, meeting new people, helping people. He liked volunteering for hospice, but he had 3 or 4 things that he volunteered for in his week. That certainly keeps you social. So my volunteer,
and it fills your heart. It fills your heart in many ways, right? Your help. It's very, very good for your heart.
Therapeutic.
So many ways. And for you readers out there, or readers of Sharon's book, soon to be reader, she has so many different tips that she has gleaned from all of her different interviews with all these very, very wise and gracious guests on her podcast. So this book is not only her wisdom, but it's also just a conglomeration of a very succinct conglomeration of just so much other packed wisdom in there as well. And so that was something I really took away from the book. I was like, oh, well, this is her and someone else, and then this other podcast. So it's a really good, yeah, it's really synergistic. So the book is very, very good that way. So I want to talk a little bit more about your book. So are you still recording your podcast? We've talked about the podcast a little bit.
No, I finished, I think it was April of 21. And talking about words of wisdom, 3 or 4 of my guests on my podcast had come from winning Words from the Wise Award that was recognized someplace out of Washington, D.C. It was just a assisted living kind of organization, but they had some kind of magazine or newsletter, and I picked up several of them. So here's another example of how you could be involved in your community, Heidi, and shows, well, one, I'll give you 2 examples. One, my favorite, was a lady here in the area that she felt a need to expand her heart, and she decided to do community services around the world for a year. So she had 12 different countries that she went to. She rode elephants, fed baby lions, worked at a baboon sanctuary, and even taught Chinese kids English. And yet, a word from the wise person from Boston area, he had been civil engineer, I think, all his life. And so once he retired, he went around looking at his community. How could he improve his community? He made a list of what buildings had elevators in them, so people in wheelchairs could access lawyers or doctors or dentists that in buildings that had elevators. Pretty practical.
Yeah, fantastic. He's using his skills as a civil engineer to help his community. Yeah. So you can always translate your skills into something. There's always a purpose. There's always a divine purpose for everything on your path. You may not know it at the time. Yeah.
Do what you did for charity. So that's what he wound up doing. And I've since found out he's passed away at 85, kind of suddenly, unexpected, but we can still talk about the legacy that he left.
That's fantastic. That was a fantastic part of your book, by the way. So I'll do a couple more questions here. So you talk about the common excuses for not moving forward in your life in your book, like too old, not creative, no time, like all those all those negative mindsets, those things that we gotta learn to let go. So have you ever encountered these personally? And if so, what did you have to do about it? Like, what was the process by which you said, all right, you know?
Well, I have a chair sitting right here. Let's see. Oh, right there. And I often had looked at life as if the best I could do is sit in a chair all day. Would I be any more valuable or less valuable by spending a day sitting in a chair? I don't know why that has been, I pondered that over the years, but it's my way. I want people to say, even if they're in a wheelchair and can't leave the house, what can they do, even being immobile? You can
I love
still
that.
talk on the phone. You can still listen to grandkids or whatever. You can still maybe crochet or write letters, or you decide what's impossible. In fact, I have another little block. You decide what stops you. Life,
I love that.
life, sometimes we can't control, people that have been in car accidents and become immobile.
Mm-hmm.
Did they ask for
Mm-hmm.
that? Were they in the wrong place at the wrong time? Well, people have learned to not let their limitations stop them from living. And yet there's lots of examples we know of people that is where they started dying. So we decide.
I love that. And that reminds me a lot of what I talk to my kids about. And I don't know if you've ever read The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
I haven't yet, but I've heard a lot about it.
One of them is always do your best, but I will say this with an asterisk. So always do your best no matter where you're at. Are you wake up different every day. Every day. You could be sick one day, you could be like full of energy and vitality and life the next day, and you never know. So as long as you're doing your best with what you have and where you're at. And so Don Miguel Ruiz says that so that you're not ingesting shame over regrets. But I use this to say I'm doing the best with what I have and what I know to help other people be able to tap into their inner joy that comes with aligning with their deep purpose. So as long as you're doing your like, I'm doing my best every day with what I know right now, and a year from now I'm gonna know a lot more different things. And so I obviously I would be doing a different job today if I knew, what I was going to know a year from now. So always do your best, no matter if you're in the wheelchair, if you're, at the hospital, or if you wake up and you're like, I'm going to bust it out today. So,
yeah, let me tell you a little story that happened to me back in my young 20s, maybe 22, 24, 25. I was at work. I was working second shift downtown Seattle, and the flu was going around. And I started feeling kind of nauseous. And this went on for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And there were people, not at work because of their flu. And I just kind of decided, go bother somebody else. It did. I did not get sick. And it was one of the first times I kind of stomped my foot and refused to take what life was seemingly, coming. And I have never forgotten that that's a flu bug going around. Well, so I don't have to get the flu.
Do you think that by saying that it influenced your behavior? Like you drank a bunch of water and, you may wash your hands more. Like you just acted like, I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to put up this shield of protection from this virus.
I probably made a point to get more sleep. And I don't know that I was that mindful of drinking more water at the time. I probably breathed a little deeper, but I haven't had a cold since I retired. And yet I remember one year that I had 3 colds in 1 year. So And then, you know, it's like, oh, Sharon, that's sometimes a sign that you're getting cancer or something. So, and maybe it's not.
There you go. There you go. That totally reminds me of one of my favorite Winnie the Pooh quotes. I don't know if you like Winnie the Pooh, but it's Pooh and Piglet, and they're walking hand in hand, and they go under this tree. And Piglet looks up and he said, "Suppose that tree falls on us when we walk by it." And then Pooh goes, "Suppose it doesn't." So your
That's part of
mindset.
how do we look at life? Is it
Mm-hmm.
fear, or is it the possibilities? And I love the word possibilities. So
Yes, yes. Maybe
explore
the
possibilities.
possibilities. Fantastic. All right, so I think it's definitely time now for your words of wisdom and doing a little show. I'm gonna see if I can I'm just gonna give you the full screen so everyone can see all of these fabulous.
Well, this one is from Brene Brown, and it speaks a lot to part of courage is facing being vulnerable. And yet she says vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation and creativity. So you're likely going to have a hard time finding creativity and innovation unless you're vulnerable. And men have a more struggle with that than women, but even being in a wheelchair all the day can feel vulnerable too. Okay, here's let your feet follow your heart. This takes a lot of courage because you're acting as if your heart knows what it wants. And it also takes us listening to our heart. Pretty hard to do when we got earplugs in all day long. All right. Never give up on yourself is, I think, attributed to Winston Churchill. And lots of us have had examples of people who have given up on us. But as long as we believe in ourselves and believe in our value, nothing can stop us. Oh, this is another way of doing the color is the same willingness. Oh, no, this is different. Vulnerability is willingness to show up and be seen without any guarantee of the outcome. I kind of equate that to being faith, using your faith. You put out what you know and without any expectations, no guarantee of success to come, but there's often where synergy happens. I was vulnerable and I invite you to be vulnerable and magic happens. Okay. No one becomes poor by giving. No one. Anne Frank, a World War II prisoner in her own house, well, somebody else's house. No one becomes poor by giving. And that invites us to do lots of volunteering and giving. Christmas is a time of giving, and that's the time of the year it is right now. But it also, I think, helps shoo away depression. And doing things for others is therapeutic for combating depression, isolation. Cherish forever what makes you unique. This is the little topic about what's that gold nugget inside of me that nobody else has and can't show the world quite like I can. And if you don't cherish it, who will? You might have some family friends that cherish you, but one of the things that I think have made my last 2-3 months so valuable, so precious, is I've been focusing on honoring myself more and loving myself more. My birthday last month was such a kick for a week. I had like 3 or 4 people singing me happy birthday on my phone, and because I chose to love me and that golden nugget inside. Okay, this is another way of saying cherish forever what makes you unique. I love these colors. They're just such a soothing, calming thing. And So I think you should be calm and embracing your uniqueness and then shining. A coach recently told me I should add make spark or sparkle part of anything I do. And I think he was right because I have a way of sparkling. All right, this line comes from the Lion King. Have you forgotten who you are? Just because you're retired doesn't mean you're still not that college graduate or that dynamite debater that you were in college, that you still can't run a mean 50-yard dash. You can still bake that dynamite cupcake that your friends rave about. Just because you're retired doesn't mean all that stuff that you contributed to in your job isn't still part of you. It's now important to find new ways to share that with the world. Daily, do something that brings you happiness, health, and wealth. And even on the golf course, that can be important.
Fantastic. Wow, Sharon. Well, thank you so much. I love that. I hope you all enjoyed the the inspirational art show. And that just reminded me, my dad, he's been retired for maybe over a decade now. And he recently, during the pandemic, he picked up his clarinet, of which he was in the band in college. And he he practiced and practiced, and he felt good enough. He joined a band, and he's just loving life right now. And so that just, shout out to my dad, like, love you, and so proud of you doing the clarinet thing again. So, all right. Well, Sharon, where can people get your 3 tips and your book? Of course, we're going to have links in the show notes.
Well, it's something that I had a virtual assistant just help me with recently, and I believe it's a new thing that I'm offering on freshcourage.now.site is building something. It's about isolation and tips for isolation. It comes exactly from my chapter 3 of my book, How to Be More Socially Healthy. So my effortlessvitality.now.site is my website. I also have effortlessvitality.org, but this one is so much prettier. Fresh Courage in Retirement is my book. And on Instagram, people can find me as Queen of Courage. I've got about 120, I guess, followers at this point. And I do the same thing that I just did with my little art blocks. I hold one up and talk about it for a couple minutes. Heidi, it's kind of my way of, I've realized it's passing my wisdom on to the next generation.
It's part of your gift. It's part of that. It's part of that uniqueness, the way that you package the art. It's just beautiful. So fantastic. Well, we will did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to share it because you might have picked up on how I've been expressing my essence to you today. I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires.
That's beautiful. I feel inspired to write my own.
There's something about showing and knowing your soul. And that's what it feels like when I share my essence. And I can help you do that.
Yay. All right. So everyone, please pick up your copy of Fresh Courage, and we'd love to know what you think of this interview. Please put #replay in the show notes, and looking forward to seeing you all soon for another Joyfully Ever After conversation. Sharon, thank you so much for joining me today. It was absolutely heartwarming and sparkly and fabulous.
And I want to be an international speaker. So, invite me to come to your events to be a speaker. That would be awesome.
All right. That sounds great. All right. With love, light, and laughter, until next week, I'm Heidi Esther with Sharon Rolph, and we'll see you soon.